A report that Shiv had filed earlier from the Shura military base where, in fact, what he was told was that there was, in fact, this barbarity that was seen by the forensics teams was something that they never really saw before. Shiv, in fact, continues to be with us. Shiv, the Israel had also, in fact, taken journalists to show them raw footage of the kind of barbarity that Hamas had inflicted on the people of Israel post the 7th of October and on the 7th of October. Just talk to us about what you saw, what you have in fact been seeing.
Sneha, we were at the Shura military base here in Israel, in central Israel yesterday, where we saw, two of those containers being opened. Those images have gone viral. I just, checked it out on social media. People have shared, our report really, really widely. And I'm not surprised because that is perhaps the first visceral sense of the kind of toll that was taken by the Hamas terrorists on October the 7th. But behind me is the IDF hall here at the Glilot military base, where I've just had a chance among a small group of journalists, Sneha, to watch that 46-minute film of body cam and other footage that has been curated by the Israeli Defense Forces, for the world to see. We weren't allowed to shoot it, obviously. It's not being released for public consumption because there are faces and identities in it. But I can tell you, having covered a war and conflict for a couple of decades, this is one of the most harrowing things I've seen. There is suffering most definitely happening on both sides. There is a humanitarian crisis in Gaza as well. But let me tell you that Israel wants the world to be reminded constantly that you cannot forget what happened on October the 7th. This was a 44-minute film, with uninterrupted footage of the carnage, very, very unsettling, disturbing sequences, of murder, of beheading, images of charred and dead babies. Many of the things that we actually saw censored, at the beginning of this conflict. In this hall behind me, I've just had a chance to see all of it completely uncensored, raw footage, unedited, just put together for the world to see. I wonder if there will be a time, because Israel is in some ways exasperated that it is needing to, reveal all these things. They say we would never have actually done this, but given the kind of narrative against Israel in the international community, Israel appears to be forced to, put out some of this to, in some ways, persuade the international community to also be reminded and not lose focus on what happened on October the 7th. So I'm going to be reporting more about that at 5 p.m. as well, Sneha, but this was truly, truly harrowing. I think, the claim and counterclaim war that erupted immediately after October the 7th, much was made of it. But, when you see a bullet-riddled, infant, when you see a charred infant, when you see pictures of tied-up children, when you see a man executed in front of his two minor boys, when you see children wailing in front of their, in front of the corpses of their parents, it goes beyond, claims of propaganda and information messaging and information warfare. This is very real. These things actually did happen. One can choose to interpret them as psychological warfare, and this is something that Israel and Palestine have been past masters at. They've mastered the art of messaging in the past as well. But no one can deny that these things actually did happen, and I just saw that footage right now. One only wonders how much more there is. We saw 44 minutes, Neha, and this was only like a select few videos. I'm only wondering with horror how much more there is to see.
Yes, that's right. Shiv, also, you did talk about the fact that Israel has made its point clear that it wouldn't have shown this footage had the narrative not been spun around in a particular way. And that's, in fact, one of the reasons why also Israel really has not minced any words this time around when they said that the UN Secretary General should resign for the comments that he made on the attacks not being made in a vacuum, so to speak, supporting Hamas. It did appear. And that's the reason why Israel said, this is not okay and you need to step down.
Sneha, Israel has always had a very problematic relationship with the United Nations, and it isn't difficult to see why. Even at this time, the kind of narrative coming out of multilateral organization seems to suggest that what happened on October the 7th, is lying in the shadows, but the priority is, and the focus is continuously and entirely on what's happening in Gaza right now. So I think there is a sense of, like I said, bewildered anger perhaps in Israel that, organizations like the United Nations are choosing to focus. Israel isn't saying don't focus on Gaza or the humanitarian situation there. They're saying remember what has triggered this. You can't completely dilute what happened on October the 7th. And that's where footage like the ones we've just seen, visits to the Shura military base where we saw, the remains of, hundreds of bodies packed into refrigerated containers actually comes. I'm not surprised even a little bit that Israel has called for the resignation of Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Let me also say it's not the first time this has happened. Collisions between Israel and the United Nations have become a kind of signature aspect of every cycle of this violence. And therefore, that's something that will play itself out. The United Nations has been a critic of Israel. Every time there is a new upheaval, you'll see these things actually said. But I think it's also a telling commentary, Sneha, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, on the United Nations, that in all of these years, in all of these decades and cycles of this conflict, the United Nations has been a particular failure in achieving absolutely anything between Israel and Palestine. And I think, when Antonio Guterres, his successors, his predecessors, make comments of any kind at this time, I think they need to realize that this crisis is also on the UN's watch.
All right, Shiv, I'm going to thank you for the moment, for joining us with your views and your perspective also.